Okay. Hello, hello, hello. The microphone. Just there. Just gonna see. We can hear that. Hello. The microphone. Just there. Just gonna see. We can hear that. Okay, how's this? Let's just turn it down a little bit. Okay, how's this? Let's just turn it down a little bit. I'm happy with that. That's. I'm just checking. Go away, me. Yeah, just checking how that sounded on. I'm happy with that. I'm just gonna share the link. Now we wait. So, it's a bit tricky when nobody is actually here. Oh, okay, that probably would be helpful. You know? But by the way, if anyone's watching and you're in the chat, just say hello. Let's share out. So it's literally just waiting if anybody's here, just to say that you're there. And there's not a fact that I can do at the minute, but just wait and see. It is just playing the waiting game for, well, so somebody pops and says, hello, anybody here? This feels like a proper live stream set up here with the mic, the laptop, and the having a cup of tea. Yeah. Thanks, one. It actually like that. Ah, this is really awkward. This is really awkward. Once I once I actually have, if there's anyone actually in the chat, you know. But first time live streaming, yeah, I guess it's not going to be perfect. But, yeah, if I do end up putting this up as a proper video and like saving it to the channel, yeah, I'm just gonna have to put in the comments. Skip the first however many minutes. If you, yeah, because this is going great. It's playing the waiting game. Very nice. it's definitely a lesson learned for whenever I stream again. Is that because I've got plans to do some more live streams hopefully in the future, fingers crossed. But the plan, the what I'm thinking, the plan is to for the 7-year anniversary of the channel, is to do a live stream for that. Because I mean, I've wanted to do them for ages, and that I want to try. Obviously trying something different, and just doing something to obviously celebrate that anniversary, that birthday. And now I know I've learned with this. Have something in mind. Have things planned, because you don't want to be just sat here for 10 minutes not doing anything. Which yeah, don't be doing that. Oh man. Fingers crossed though. People will join. There's nobody here. Nobody. There's nobody here. Nobody here. I'm literally talking to myself. This is fun. Um, no, got it. All right. The link's working. So what's? I don't know. I really don't know. Nobody ever said this is going to be smooth sailing, but it's what it is, I suppose. Mr. Uplook, someone's arrived. He's arrived. I thank you, Mr. L, for coming along, because I've been talking to nobody for nearly 15 minutes now. Oh man. Peak Street. Do you have to rub it in my face? Really? Really? You have to rub it in my face. Well, actually, speaking of Mr. L, here's some stuff that I could talk about now that I have someone here. Obviously, this kind of isn't my usual setup. My usual setup's I have the tripod facing there, and I'm usually sat that way, talking that way. That's just how the setup usually is. But this is obviously the setup that I have for the podcast. I mean, Mr. L do the double feature podcast, which I am going to plug, possibly, maybe afterwards. But basically, this is the setup, and I have obviously here my microphone. No, it's in the double feature podcast, episode 11. Yeah, because I was just getting onto that actually. Yesterday, me and Mr. L, we recorded our latest episode, which I'll give some teasers for it. But that's why, because I've got the podcast set up here. So I thought, well, let's have a crack with doing some live streams and whatnot. Let's have a go with that. So we recorded that yesterday afternoon. It's on Thunderbolts. That's our spotlight film for episode 11. And what else did we talk about? We talked about some Tom Cruise films, because obviously Mission Impossible came out, and we thought for our classic movie section, talk about some Tom Cruise films. It went quite funny, quite unexpected some bits. I won't spoil what, but it should be out in, I think, 2 weeks yesterday, so early June. I think the first week of June. Cruise control. That should be the sort of tagline for that for this episode. Cruise control. Yeah, because it really was. But I think it should be out the 7th of June, which is the first Saturday of June. So, because Mr. L, next Saturday is his 5-year birthday on YouTube, which is pretty cool. Yeah, yeah. Hopefully the 7th. So mark in your calendars, folks. But yeah, it's always really fun to record the podcasts and 5 year. He's getting on. That's why he's getting on now. He's getting on now. Uh, but uh, but yeah, that'll be exciting. Hopefully. And back in my day, I've been doing videos longer than you have, mate. So yeah, nearly 7 years now. It's literally a 7-year itch. So take that. Yeah. Back in my day, before COVID, I mean, you did during Big Brother. Ancient. Yeah, 2018 is like historical now. I just started pre-COVID, so I recently learnt this about like 2018. I recently learnt this. I don't know if anyone remembers this. I don't know if the Beast from the East, that big snowstorm we had that year. That's apparently getting taught in geography now, in geography course and whatnot. That is like a historical event that's been taught in that. It's that, and to me, that just doesn't register. Which is, I grew up in that story. Yeah, do you remember? Do you remember that? That was brilliant. It's weird that me remembering it so vividly because it was yeah, like early 2018, like February, March of that year, and I just remember like I distinctly remember I was in geography actually. I was in a geography lesson. It was like, and I remember that all the staff were like, okay, school's shutting for the day. You get to go home, and we were like home for that whole like long weekend. It was like 4 days off. Yeah, 4 days off school, including like a weekend. So yeah, cook some top tier steaks out in the snow. I remember. How did you do that? There was how did you even do that? I don't know. Oh, yeah. I don't know why I'm just picturing now a barbecue in the snow. I can't. That just doesn't make any sense to me. But now that does. You explained it. Ah, Listen, massacres. I mean, funny. I came up with this idea of trying to do. I'd love to make like a story, like maybe a film at some point, maybe like in the future. Like a film idea I had was about the Beast from the East. I'd love to try and make a film of something like that. It was a cool, like I think it's like an interesting event. You can base it obviously, true history, even though it's only 7 years ago. Um, when I remember coming up with this idea of sort of telling it from a child's point of view. Obviously, I was quite young at the time, but kind of telling it from that point of view, I thought that'd be quite cool. It was like kind of similar to the film Belfast, the Kenneth Branagh film. It's sort of set in the Troubles in Ireland in like the 60s and yeah, like the 1960s and whatnot. And it kind of looks through that period of history through the lens of a young child, like a 10-year-old child. And I think that'd be quite an interesting thing to do from maybe a lesser known event. But I think it'd be kind of interesting to look at. Because it was a weird phenomenon that happened. That was, but that'd be quite cool. I think. There we go. Absolute hang on, hang on. Here's one for the screen grabs. Absolute cinema. Take out. Have your screen grabs there. Oh no. Um, yeah, thanks for coming on, though, Mr. Rock, because it's getting a bit lonely here because it was just me on here. So appreciate having you on. But yeah. cracking. Sorry, I had to grab a beer. Fair enough. Fair enough. That is fair enough. Get a beer. I've got my cup of tea. I had. I've drunk it all, but yeah, I've had that. So get your beer. It's bank holiday weekend, so get your beers out. Have a just chill out. You know, it's it's the weekend. You just have a chill weekend. It's great. And that would be funny doing a drunk live stream. It would be irresponsible. It would probably get flagged, but it'd be funny. It'd be funny, definitely. Maybe in maybe in the future for a live stream, just get wasted. That'd be funny. Oh, actually, I think I will do. Watching Final Destination tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, I mean, thing is, we obviously I know that because we talked about it yesterday. But yeah, the new Final Destination Bloodlines. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. Hope you enjoy. I'm hopefully going to check out the finishing scheme tomorrow. It's Wes Anderson's new film that's come out. Hopefully, I'm going to check that out tomorrow. But I will try and I'll try and check out the new Final Destination. And the only thing is that if anybody else in the chat, um, I'll ask this sort of question. But do you have to know all of the continuity of the previous five films? Sometimes live streams can be a bit dead. Unfortunately, I can't speak. Um, I've sat on some for hours alone, and and hopefully more people. Fingers crossed, yeah. As it is the first live stream that I've ever actually done properly. I mean, I did do one for like 3 minutes last night, um, but it was literally just testing it out. So, um, yeah. By the way, actually, does this sound all right as well? I just wanted to check that this does sound okay. The audio is good and everything, right? I did just want to check that. In the meantime, I'm not going to do that. No. I thought I'd copy the link for the podcast, but I didn't. So let's try that again. No, well, actually, yeah. What I was saying about the Final Destination, I was thinking. Oh, you keep taking off topic for Final Destination here. Hey, chat, you can now watch our podcast on Spotify. Well, now you can. Come on, do it now. Yes, I think I put a post of this a bit ago, but yeah, the podcast is now on Spotify as well as YouTube. And obviously on Spotify you can have video as well. So there is that. You don't lose that if you want to see means. Oh, Scroll 59. Hello there. A question. Are there any other director rankings you have planned? I've got a few in mind. I was working on trying to. The one I had in mind to do was a Kubrick ranking. I wanted to do that. Yeah, welcome, Scramble. It's great to see you. And it was, I believe, it was you who suggested the Moscow Clements one. So, uh, still thank you for that. But yeah, I wanted to do a Kubrick one a while sort of start this year because I've seen a few Kubrick films this year, like Eyes Wide Shut. I watched Doctor Strangelove this year. The Killing, which is one of his earlier films. I wanted to. I just forgot to carry on, but that's what I'd like to do at some point. So that might be the next one I do. When I do it, I don't know, but Yeah, I need to think of he only did make 13 movies, so it'd be preferred shuffle. Yeah, exactly. It's not too many as well. And I've seen how many have I seen actually? I'm just gonna check Letterboxd because I've seen I think about half his films currently. Let me have a look again. So of the Kubrick films I have seen, I've seen. Hang on, let me just get this up. I've seen Fear and Desire. Is first. This is from like oldest to newest. Fear and Desire, Killer's Kiss, The Killing, Doctor Strangelove, The Shining, Full Metal Jacket, and Eyes Wide Shut. So I've kind of it's weird. I've sort of seen like the book ending films. I've seen like his early films from the 50s and a lot of obviously his 80s and 90s stuff like Shining, Full Metal, and Eyes Wide. But it's all the stuff in between that I haven't. Waste here. Hi guys, hello there. How you doing? Thank you for having on. It's great. I've got some more people here. Thanks for all coming along. It's great. Um, but yeah, Kubrick would be one I'd like to do a ranking of at some point. I've always said Nolan is one that I wanted to do. I mean, the thing is, it was my mum who kept saying, "Oh, you should do like a Tarantino ranking or a Nolan ranking." And obviously, I did the Tarantino one about a year ago now, and the Nolan one. I need to do that one. It's just a case of I think I need to rewatch a lot of Nolan's films because I watched quite a few of them. It's been a while. It's been a few years since for a lot of them because I've seen most of them. It's just Dunkirk and two-thirds of the Dark Knight trilogy I haven't seen. But like all the others I've seen, it's weird. I've seen Following his first like no budget debut film, but I haven't seen I haven't seen like the dark two-thirds of the Batman trilogy. I feel like it would be good to see directors that have a fair number of hits but aren't talked about too often. Yeah, that could be a shout. Yeah. I think with the director ones, I'm trying to get a lot of the iconic ones out of the way, but I don't know what. I think the trouble with some of them. Pardon me. I think the trouble with some of them, there's certain directors who they have quite a lot of films. So it's a bit tricky to kind of go through them. So I'm thinking like Martin Scorsese. I'd love to cover. That would be great to do ideally, but he's got about like 20 odd films and whatnot, and there's quite a lot. Who we got here? Like a podcast to listen to is currently going through the filmmaker of Amy Heckler, who made Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Cluson. Oh hell yeah! Is that, I think this Nick Cage is in Fast Times, isn't he? Nice to meet you. Is here? Yes, it would, and they're awfully. Yeah, nice to see you in the podcast. Not the podcast, the stream. It's I'm going a bit crackers right now, but that could be. I'd like to try and cover some less less obscure. No, not less, more obscure directors. I can't talk. I can't think. I don't generally think. Yeah, Fast Times at Cage's film debut was Nicholas Coppola. Yeah, yeah, because he was quite young. He would have been about like 20 odd or whatever. And funny, the funny thing was as well, Mr. When we were doing our Nick Cage episode, the Sonic one, I almost went to check. I was going to check out Fast Times because I knew it was quite an early one, and I wanted to try and check out an early one. But when I saw that his role wasn't that big in the film, I thought maybe another one. So yeah, I watched Willy's Wonderland instead. Um, will you watch The House that Jack built so you could explore? I haven't seen that one yet. I haven't actually checked one out. Ken Russell ranking would be interesting to see. Not sure how many films. Ken, who's who? I need to. The name rings a bell. I'm trying to think. Who is he again? Who's he again? Oh, he did Tommy. Oh, that guy. Oh, yes. I need to watch Tommy. I can't. I really want to. I really want to watch Tommy at some point. Um, yeah, and Layer the White Worm. I think Peter Capaldi's in that film, isn't he? Yeah, Peter Capaldi's in that film, isn't he? Yeah, it's quite funny. That's a very um, it's a very obscure filmography, but I don't whether I do that, I don't know, but I definitely will check out Tommy at some point because that's on the list of like I want to watch it. And as a big like 70s music fan, um, I'd love to. It's got all the Who, Clapton's in it, Eric Clapton's in it, which is insane but awesome. Elton John's in it. Keith Moon, obviously, from the Who. Wait, Tina Turner's in it. Um, yeah, I do want to check that one out. Alex Man, hello there. Great to see you in the stream. Yeah, we're just talking about absolute cinema. We're just talking movies. Um, but yeah, yeah. I forgot absolute live stream. What if you do the despised directors like the Russo brothers on Ratchet? The Russo brothers would be really interesting. 'Cause obviously, it's so weird because aside from their form, and well, at the minute, their four MCU films, it, nobody likes their other films. It's bizarre. Yeah, honestly, I'm not gonna rule that out. I'm genuinely not gonna rule that out because that could be interesting. Um, Electric State, Electric. Yeah, I know, Mr. O, you watched Electric State yesterday. Fair enough, you enjoyed it. The one that kind of interested me from there, it's a film called I think it's the film they did called Cherry. Oh, Leo, hey man, how you doing? My ranking, maybe ranking the highest probably film every decade since the 20s or 30s might be cool. That's a shout actually. That'd be cool to do once of each decade. It's great to see you there, Leo. Electric State Opponents botched adaptation of cinema history. What is it adapted from again? Because I just knew it as Chris Pratt and Owen Kiki Kwan and Millie Bobby Brown were in it. What is it based off? Is it based on like a book or a game or what's it based off? It's based on an book. Oh right, okay. Yeah, it's just a film that sort of appeared and people were like slagging it off, and I was like, what is it? Yeah, like for the Russos though, the one that they did, I think it was the one they did after Endgame. It's called Cherry. It's like war film. Tom Holland's in it. We had to watch. I remember it was like one of our first uni lectures when we were looking at like camera work and whatnot because that film has like the weird effect of the sort of the red camera lens over the black and white and whatnot. And I thought that looks really cool. But I remember our lecturer was like, "Yeah, the rest of the film's kind of crap," which apparently it is. But yeah, Cherry. I know it's not meant to be very good, but it looks interesting. It's the one we got. Lovely. That's delightful. Tom Holland. Yeah, that's the one. It's the one we got. Tom Holland. Yeah, that's really lovely. Great. I'm not looking forward to it now. What? I don't know. I don't know. I have to go now. See, thank you for coming along, though, Scrambled. It's great to see you. Great to chat about movies and yeah. But take care. Yeah, this is yeah. At least we've got like the flow of the stream going, which is good though. The flow of the live stream. Scorsese. What's your favorite movie you've seen this year? In terms of films from this year that like new releases, it's Sinners. Obviously, I've done my video on it. It's so good. It's so good. It's yeah. Everyone's saying Sinners here, but in terms of films that I'm watching like for the first time, like older films, for me it's Blue Velvet. I watched it. Obviously, I watched it when David Lynch passed away back in January this year. Mickey 17 would be like a close second in terms of new releases from this year. So it'd be like Sinners. Um, forgot that Minecraft. Yeah, it'd be Sinners, Mickey 17. Actually, I've got the Letterboxd list. Hang on. Yeah, so for the films I've seen so far this year, like new releases, Sinners, Mickey 17. This is from best to worst. Thunderbolts, Wolfman, and Minecraft. Although the true number one it is Minecraft. Yeah, but I've seen five films from this year so far in terms of like new releases. But I'm saying in terms of like stuff that I'm watching for the first time, like just broadly, as I say, Blue Velvet when I watched it back in January, obviously because of David Lynch passing, and then I immediately fell in love with it, and it's genuinely now like it's in my letterbox top four now. It's genuinely rivaling Ferris Bueller as my favorite film of all time. I've connected with it that much, in like a very very personal way to me and whatnot. I mean, as well as it being, it's just a brilliant thriller film. Dennis Hopper as Frank Booth, one of the best film villains I think I've ever seen. He's amazing. He's amazing in that film. But as like a young adult, the film, what it's exploring, really has connected with me. I think that's really interesting because like, as Ferris Bueller, I think obviously connected with me when I watched it. I it was about 5 years ago now. Yeah, well, it was because it was during lockdown. I watched it, so it very much connected me with it. Yeah, it very much connected with me in that way. But Blue Velvet, as I'm getting older and maturing, it connects with me in a different way. And I love the fact that your favorite film, every few years will change, obviously depending on what part of your life you're in. I would just Blue Velvet is my favorite Lynch film that I've seen. Still need to watch Twin Peaks, Dune, Lost Highway, and Straight Story. I've seen a few Lynch films. I haven't watched those ones, but I've seen Elephant Man, which is amazing. Like probably second for me. That one was brilliant. I've seen Mulholland Drive. That was my first. That was my first Lynch film, which was probably not the best start because it's weird, but it has grown on me and it stuck with me. That's the great thing. And I've also seen I can't speak. Wild at Heart with Nick Cage. But yeah, I love all of Lynch's films I've seen, and even the weirder ones that I didn't quite get when I first saw them. They've kind of grown on me as time's gone on, which is he's one of the best filmmakers we had, I think. I saw Wild at Heart in the theatre last year. I'm jealous. That I really wish I could. That's so good. And Elephant Man is really good. But Wild at Heart, watching that in a cinema, it must be really funny. So, I think it must be a bit awkward at points, but that must be really, really good. Yeah, insane. I imagine that's a really bonkers experience. Nick Cage mentioned that. Yeah, why have you still not watched? Why have you still not watched Wild at Heart, bro? You're the Nick Cage connoisseur, Mister. Why have you still not seen it yet? And then we've got some Minecraft discussion I missed there. I watched a Minecraft movie and not Sinners. Watch Sinners, please. I beg of you. I beg you, son. Watch Sinners. It's so good. My friend Rich, he put it perfectly. You will pay to see much worse than Sinners. So go watch Sinners. Bringing Out the Dead is peak. Yeah, that's Scorsese, isn't it? That's yeah, with Nick Cage as well. I do want to check that out. Yeah, this is the thing about a lot of Cage films. I talked about it in the podcast when we talked about Nick Cage films back this year. A lot of his films, he's often like the highlight of the film, but the draw for me will be something else in that film. So like Bringing Out the Dead, yes, Nick Cage is great, he's probably great in it, but for me the draw is it's a Scorsese film. With Wild at Heart, the draw was that it was a David Lynch film, but Nick Cage steals the show in that film. I mean, when I talk about The Rock in that podcast, obviously Nick Cage is the lead in it, but Sean Connery's in it. And as a Bond fan, seeing Sean Connery in like the '90s and like later on in his career in an action film, that's the draw for me. But Nick Cage is always really good in everything. He's a great actor, I think. Um, but yeah, I will check out Bring Out the Dead because it looks really interesting, quite a bit dark. It's uh, just because I can do no wrong. Boxcar Birthday Never Happened. Yeah, that's one of his early films, isn't it? I have not seen that one. I mean, my least favorite Scorsese is probably Mean Streets that I've seen so far, anyway. Nick Cage, Rise of Grog, the goddamn Cruise. I love that stuff. I watched The Cruise. It's one of the earliest films I remember seeing at the cinema back, 2013. I was like what 6 or 7, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old, and the rule of thumb is that if you don't like something as a kid, like intent that is intended for you, you're definitely not going to like it when you're younger. When you're older, sorry. And I just distinctly remember falling asleep in the cinema to The Croods. So that was I need to watch The Croods again just for the Cage memes. Never saw the sequel ever. Well, the sequel was directed by the guy who did The Last Wish, so it's meant to be actually like pretty decent, which is good. Mean Streets is phenomenal. Was way better on a rewatch. I probably do need to give Mean Streets another go. I mean, I've got actually. I just get it up here. The Blu-ray of it. Yeah, I don't know if you can see over my shoulder that my Blu-ray show just there. But yeah, Mean Streets. I probably need to give it another go because it's not like it's a bad film at all. Like it is a pretty good film, but just I think for me, with Mean Streets, it's a very kind of obviously it's early on in his career, and it kind of feels like the sort of prototype of like a taxi driver. in a way, it's almost like what Mean Streets was doing, like films like Taxi Driver kind of um, refine it and whatnot. It's a very like rough, rugged sort of film in a way. But it kind of does suffer from like early on in your career syndrome. Mean Streets does. But I probably do need to give it another go, and I will do at some point. I love the opening with "Be My Baby" by the Ronettes. It's a great song. Mean Streets was the movie where Scorsese fell in love with an. Yeah, it was their first film together. And Harvey Keitel's in it as well, which is it's bonkers. It's bonkers seeing them that young and that early in their careers. It is bonkers, but yeah, as I say, like I do love the kind of rough, raw, sort of vibe of the film and whatnot. Who's that knocking at like? Which one's that? Oh, that's his first film, isn't it? That's with Harvey Keitel, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know. I was thinking knocking at heaven's door. I don't know. I was thinking of the Bob Dylan song. I don't know why. But yeah. Who's that knocking at the door? That was their first film. It was like in the 60s. It was late 60s, wasn't it? Like 67 or something. Um, but I still think that Mean Streets does. It's probably the first proper Scorsese film, but still, it's like the halfway point between Who's Knocking at My Door, like a very low budget, and The Taxi Driver, where it's like the Scorsese we know and love. It's kind of in that halfway point, and it's still not quite fully refined. And I think there's something exciting about that, but it also just means I think with stuff like the plot of that film, it's a Scorsese template. Kind of, yeah, kind of. That's kind of how I feel about Mean Streets to a degree. Um, but yeah, I've got to say I'm really enjoying the discussion here because if you guys if you rewatch the stream afterwards and you see the first 10 minutes of the stream, it was just dead. There was nobody here, which is quite. It was funny. It was funny. It's probably gonna be funny to look back on, just me going. Ah. Yeah, it'll probably be funny to watch afterwards, but it wasn't funny for me because I was just like, what do I do? What do I do? Um, or I had to phone a fence. Yeah, I just sent it. I just sent it to you. Yeah, I just sent the stream to you. I was like, nobody's here. Speed it up. Oh man. Um, yeah, I had to just like share it out. What did you think about Complete Unknown as a Bob Dylan fan? I was really surprised by it, and I personally really liked it. But it's kind of what made me a bit of a Dylan fan. To be fair, because I went into it thinking it was going to be quite just because obviously we've had loads of the music biopics and whatnot, and I just thought, oh, and not here joking, not another one. Like, I kind of thought that about it, so I was kind of a bit about it. But obviously it was in the Oscar race and whatnot, and the Oscar contention. So I went to check it out, and I was surprised by it. I really, really did enjoy it, and it did stuck with me. Maybe an anti-Bob Dylan fan, but it was that, and also for me as well. I got a friend at uni, Greg, who he's massive on Bob Dylan music. He loves it. He loved Complete Unknown. He was like, "Oh, you got to check it out, then you got to check it out." And I was like, I'll give it a chance. I really liked it, and I've been listening to loads of Dylan stuff. And not just the stuff from that film, but also like some of the later stuff. Because obviously, his iconic songs are from the '60s and whatnot. Obviously, there's "Blowing in the Wind," like a Rolling Stone, "It Ain't Me, Babe." Those are kind of some of the key songs in that film. Because obviously, it's set during the early Bob Dylan career. But then there's so many other great songs. I love the Blood on the Tracks album they did in the '70s. That's such a good album. Like overall, as an overall album, that's probably is it his best? I don't know. Because Highway 61 has like his iconic songs, but yeah, I really hope they can do the Beatles justice with their biopics like they did with Dylan. Yeah, it's kind of interesting they're doing the four separate films um with the Beatles, but Sam Mendes is directing it, which is interesting because obviously and he's a director who I was going to do a filmography ranking of. I just remembered now from earlier. But it's interesting that they're doing the 4 films. But he's a great director. I love 1917. I loved Skyfall. Didn't love Spectre. But he's a very good director, so I'm interested to see what they're gonna do with that. Um, but yeah, it's complete unknown. I was very impressed with. So what's your opinion on Bong Joon-ho? A fantastic director. I've only seen 2 of his films, obviously Mickey 17 and Parasite. Both are excellent. I want to check out like some of his earlier films as well, but from the 2 that I've seen, he's a pretty bloody good director, and I love like his. I love his obviously approach. I love like a lot of the dark humor that he puts in his films. Like as somebody who loves a lot of like dark comedies, like in Seven and Nine. I love Bong Joon Ho's work, and yeah, I think the impact that he's made recently is obviously great. But I do want to check out some more of his films. But overall, he's pretty bloody good. Yeah, he's great. He's really good. Yeah. So I have to do something, but I'm back. Are you planning on seeing the new Mission Impossible? I would have done, but the thing is, I have been really busy as of late, and we almost did cover it on the podcast. That was like in the from me and Mr. L. We were kind of discussing possibly doing that as a spotlight film and like reviewing that, but neither of us had seen. Well, I know Mr. L hadn't seen any of the Mission Impossibles, and I'd only seen. I think at that point I'd only seen the 6th one. Was it Fallout? I remember seeing that one when it came out just randomly, and I have watched the first one as well. But I just didn't. I didn't. I was going to go through them all, but I just didn't have time to. So yeah, it's a shame. And obviously, I know it's meant to be very good, but you know, but I just wasn't able to. Who would win in a fight? 100 chicken jockeys or one Tom Cruise? No, the real question is, would you rather fight? What? Hang on, I need to word this properly. Would you rather fight 100 chicken jockey-sized Tom Cruise or one Tom Cruise-sized chicken jockey? I mean, fair, what's the difference? Uh, but but no, we almost did cover that one on the podcast, but we just weren't able to. Um, yeah, that's the trouble. No, yeah, no difference. There's no difference. That is the trouble with a lot. I think that's my trouble with a lot of films these days. Is I sound like a proper pretentious gossip for now, but it's having to do homework all the time. It's like you look at what's on. Okay, Mission Impossible. You've got to have seen 7 films before that. If you want to get in on like the hype and whatnot, you got to watch 7 films beforehand and then watch that. And it's a tall order. And a lot of those films, some of the later ones get to like 2.5 hours. They're quite lengthy films and whatnot. So it's a bit, I don't know. And Final Destination as well. I mean, not as bad because A, there's like less films, and B, most of those films are like 90 minutes. So they're not too bad. But even still, it can be a bit intimidating. Like, it's not the most accessible. That's why That's why again, I was so passionate that I was so happy that Sinners did as well as it did because it's this original film. You don't need to like watch anything beforehand. You don't need to do your homework, or you don't have to watch like a whole franchise. It's the same. Marvel. Marvel's the same at the minute. That's why I kind of fell out of love with it because it was having to do homework on everything, and it was just But it's like something like Sinners. You could just go into the cinema, watch the film. You didn't need to do any of your homework beforehand, and just enjoy it for what it was. Even with franchises, I hope that films can do that a bit more often, where you can enjoy them. Yeah, you still watch Thunderbolts. Yeah, because I'd seen Black Widow. He's not, look. Mr. L's going to start teasing me about he's going to start teasing me about Thunderbolts. Just watch the podcast when it comes out. But Thunderbolts, I'd seen Black Widow, so knew Yelena's story. I'd seen Falcon and Winter Soldier, so I knew John Walker. That's the guy. And I knew all this stuff, so I didn't need to do homework. And the stuff in Brave New World as well. Yeah, that was the Red Hulk stuff. It was briefly mentioned. That was in the trailer anyway, so it's just yeah. So I knew what I was doing for Thunderbolts, so it was all right. Yeah, I get what you mean with the whole franchise thing. Like, I want to get to James Bond, but with so many films, it's such a big ask. I was just going to mention that actually. The reason for me is I'm such a big Bond fan as well. I got the boxer here. Got this for like it's like 24 films here. Managed to find that for like 18 quid in a CEX, which is a bargain because that usually costs a pretty penny. That does. But with Bond, until the Daniel Craig stuff, the reason that I love it so much is because you can kind of dip in and out. You can just watch. If you watched any of them pre Daniel Craig era, you get the gist of it. Like my first film was Moonraker. That's like slap bang in the middle of the Roger Moore era in the 70s, and I loved it. You didn't need to know. Like, even though that film has like continuity, it has a returning villain with like Jaws. It has, obviously the staples like M, there's Q, there's Moneypenny. You can still enjoy that film. And then, I just watched them in a random order, and I think after that I watched like A View to a Kill, which was his last film. And then I watched like The Living Daylights, which was Timothy Dalton's first. And I just watched them in a random order. And that's the great thing about a lot of Bond films. So um yeah, I think and obviously when it gets rebooted as well, because obviously the whole Amazon thing, with them taking creative control, it's whatever comes next now, it's going to be a clean slate completely. So so when that comes along, you won't need to like do your homework with that. I mean, obviously you can still go back and watch the films and whatnot, but yeah, it's not exactly yeah, I find Bond quite accessible, and it's why the Daniel Craig stuff didn't really do for me because they tried to like connect it all. It was like a cinematic universe, and they clearly hadn't planned it out because like Casino Royale, that was his first one. That was 2006. That was pre the first Iron Man as well. So when they were making Casino Royale back in like 2004, 5, 6, and when they were sort of making like pre-production and whatnot, they weren't thinking, oh, in like nearly 20 years' time, that Bond is gonna have a kid, in No Time to Die and whatnot. And yeah, the Mr. White character in Casino Royale, he's gonna end up being Bond's father-in-law. That they hadn't planned that out because like the cinematic universe wasn't really a thing in the mid 2000s, really. Didn't really take off until the Avengers and you know that sort of stuff. So I get that, but it's I think Bond is a bit different in that respect. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just gonna because it's getting a bit dark now, so I won't be back. I'm just going to just turn the lights on, shut the blinds, so I'll be back in a moment. Whoops. That's a bit better. That's a bit better. The other day, we're going to watch the Skibidi Toilet movie when it happens for the podcast, not the microphone. We'll meet, but I'm not watching it. To be fair, my parents showed me No Time to Die randomly 2 years ago, so I don't think that helped my perception of Bond. Yeah, No Time to Die is really not a good jumping on point. I think, Mr. L, you had a similar thing where you watched No Time to Die. I think you'd seen Spectre and No Time to Die, and with those two films, the two most recent, there's so much like continuity and with the previous Craig films, and it's yeah, you told me you had no idea what was going on and whatnot. But yeah, No Time to Die is really not a great jumping on point. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you for the Daniel Craig films, it's very much watch them in order. But for any of the other ones, watch them however you like. Spectre was so mid, and then I saw No Time to Die, and it was okay, but it wasn't 100% with it. Yeah, Spectre, that's generous because I hate Spectre. I can't stand it. I really do not like it at all. And No Time to Die is decent, I think, but yeah, I don't think Bond doesn't need to be that. I think that's the reason people have enjoyed it as much as they have over the years because it has just it's all these standalone. It's kind of episodic in a way, because obviously it's back from the '60s where that was the formula. It was they were kind of standalone adventures. It's like the Ian Fleming books were quite standalone, in a way. Um, it was like it wasn't like obviously with the books and whatnot, it wasn't like a James Bond 2 or James Bond 3 or it wasn't like that. It was just Casino Royale and then Live and Let Die and then what came after that in terms of books? So, I think it was Moonraker, but it was just the individual titles and not James Bond 2 Live and Let Die. It wasn't like that. Yeah, James Bond 2 Electric Boogaloo. Yeah, yeah, no, Ian Fleming really missed a trick back in the early '50s by not doing that. You really missed a trick there. Um, but yeah, that's the trouble with the Craig films. But hopefully, with the new era, with what I'm going to do with it, I mean, hopefully it's going to be good. Hopefully, but but hopefully, you can jump on board with that, and then you can go back and watch all the past films and whatnot. Yeah. I've got to say, I actually really enjoyed doing this live stream. It's been quite fun. And actually, as well, I meant to say, now that I've actually got a few people here, my plan was. Oh, what was? I know you were saying that you could start with any contract. It depends in terms of how to get into Bond. It can depend on what your taste is. So it depends. For me, I often think a lot of the one I always tend to go with is Goldeneye, and that's Pierce Brosnan's first film. So it was from 1995. 30, I just realised I got all the Pond posters there, but yeah, 1995. That was Goldeneye, and that was Pierce Brosnan's first film, and that was made 6 years after the previous film, License to Kill, and that was like the longest gap between Bond films because of all like legal. There was like legal troubles back in like the early '90s with it, and also with that film as well because Bond was like a Cold War hero throughout the '60s, '70s, and '80s and whatnot. Obviously, the Cold War ends in 19. Was it 1999? No, 1991. I think it was was that when the Cold War ended and like the Berlin Wall fell. But obviously, post that Bond had to be different. So GoldenEye marks the first like modern Bond film as such, where he's not like a Cold War hero as such, and it's he's very much battling the modern threats of like technology and satellites, and it has this more modern feel to it, but it's still very much a classic Bond film. You've got the gadgets, you've got the girls, you've got the great action set pieces, you've got the stunt. There's the bungee jump stunt at the start of that film, which is incredible. And you've got like a bit more emotional stakes, more like character, you know, kind of complex character stuff, and I think it's really compelling. But it's also just a really entertaining film that's really fun, and it just really it's a great one. It's one of the best, I would say. It's got some great actors in it. Like Sean Bean is the villain as Trevelyan. He's great in it, and Alan Cumming as what's his name, Boris. Yeah, he's like the computer tech guy. he's a bit slimy, yeah, a bit of a backstab. He's like, yes, I am invincible. He's quite funny. He's quite funny. But yeah, GoldenEye is one I probably recommend. But the thing is, I think the reason I say GoldenEye as well is because I get obviously not everyone is maybe into older films as such, and some of the older films can be a bit slow paced. So, but if you are up for that, I think something like Goldfinger, that's like a classic Connery film. And also, I guess as well, some of the older films, some of the elements can be a bit dated as well, which might turn some people off. Which I understand, and I'm always of the opinion of like, you can still enjoy older media even if it is dated, as long as you kind of acknowledge, as long as you acknowledge it, you can still enjoy it. But I get that some people it may be a bit off-putting if that was their first Bond film, say. So I think GoldenEye is probably your best bet if you want to get into it, and then go from there. See what takes your fancy. Because with Bond as well, they obviously it's been going for so long, and a lot of the films kind of trend hot. They kind of look at what's popular at the time, and they're kind of in the zeitgeist, and they kind of sort of take influence from that. So I mentioned Moonraker earlier. That was 1979. That was made in the wake of Star Wars, so it's very influenced by the success of Star Wars, with the space sci-fi, battles and whatnot, very much influenced by that. But then you've got something like Live and Let Die, 1973. That was